Hi, I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here today to do a product review of the GT-5TP Baofeng radio. And we're going to take a fairly thorough look at this to hopefully help you decide what you think of the radio. Now, I just want to mention we're going to do a poll at the end of the video, okay? A poll, so look for that poll. The poll will be something on your screen that you can touch or bring down and pick from among some options. So that'll be at the very end before the credits. Now, this radio comes to me via Radioddity. Radioddity is a new player on the marketplace, and they have the Chinese radios. I think they're actually headquartered in China, and they're doing a good job bringing quite a variety of Chinese radios to the United States at very low prices. And they're trying hard to provide good customer service. Pretty small outfit at this point, but they're getting better. They did give me the radio and asked me to review it. So just with that caveat, okay, I've got some good points and bads, so why don't we jump in? There's several things that I'd like to say about the features of the radio, and some of them are these. First of all, remember that this is a Chinese radio. Now, every radio I understand is a Chinese radio, but if you get one from a Japanese manufacturer, it's manufactured in China to their specifications and then to their quality control and then sent to the US. Whereas in the Chinese radio, these are the Chinese manufacturers coming up with their own radios and selling them direct around the world, not just to the US, around the world. Okay, and without any Western or Japanese intermediary providing them with the design, helping them with the instruction manual and things like that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. They can certainly sell their wares direct, and we can skip the middleman. The Baofeng radio is quite inexpensive, as are many of its brethren. The Chinese are getting a little better at their manuals, but frankly, they've got a long way to go. Okay, so these are different and more difficult to deal with than the Japanese radios, which the Japanese really understand the American market and the Chinese don't. And I'm not sure the Chinese want to. They want to sell a product around the world, not just to the United States. This is an analog radio, meaning that you can only use it for voice or for things like APRS or packet or something like that. It does not have the digital voice capabilities. Radios that do are much more expensive, and one of the problems with the digital voice in the United States is that there are many different standards, and the standards are not cross-compatible. So if you use Yaesus versus ICOMs, they're just different. They don't work together. The Chinese radios that are digital are coming under the so-called DMR heading for digital mobile radio. This is dual band, 2 meter, 70 centimeter. It is dual watch, meaning that it can listen to 2 frequencies at once. Don't have to be on different bands, 2 frequencies at once. And then if somebody transmits on that band, it closes the other one while that person is transmitting. So it's dual watch, but not true dual receive. It can't receive 2 stations at a time. Now, there are 3 power levels. According to the manual, 1, 5, and 8 watts. According to Radioddity's website, 1, 4, and 8 watts. And I'm going to try and do something a little bit later on to see what I can do to verify that. It does have included with it a commercial FM band receiver. So you can listen to your favorite FM station while waiting for someone to come up on the radio. Because what happens is if somebody breaks the squelch, it'll turn the FM radio off. Then you can converse with that person. If you just simply listen, it will turn the FM radio back on. There are 2 modes in this thing. In the Japanese radios, they're memory and VFO. In the Chinese way of looking at things, they're channel and frequency mode. Frequency mode and channel mode. Frequency is like VFO. You can punch the frequency in directly and talk with it. Channel is where you take all your pre-selected ones, and channel 3 might be your local favorite repeater. Channel 4 could be listening to the weather radio if you wanted to. One thing to note about the channels, though, that they can be named, but you need the programming software to do that. You can't do it directly into the radio like you can with the TYT. It has 2 frequencies listed, an upper and a lower, and you can transmit on either one just by where you push the push-to-talk key. It will scan through all the channels. It does have lighted keys, which is really nice if you're trying to use this in the dark. It has multiple screen colors, so at a glance you see it has a different color each for receiving and transmitting, and then standby. The radio views standby as a mode where it's not receiving anything. It has flashlight built in. By the way, I find that super helpful. I don't know why we didn't think of that earlier. If you're needing your radio and it's dark, why not have a flashlight built in? It does have voice-operated transmit, or VOX. I personally don't think that's a feature that belongs on a VHF radio unless you're doing some work in a very quiet space, because otherwise all the noise around you is going to open up that VOX and transmit, and it can be a real mess. Also, I have found if you're using VOX and you stub your toe and say something that you really ought not to say in polite company, the radio will happily open the squelch, transmit that out, and let the entire world hear it. It's better to use the push-to-talk button. There are several selective calling features on this thing here. So if you have little groups of these radios here, the radio will only respond to another radio that's set up on the same selective calling group. That's not used a lot in ham radio. It might be something you want to try. There's actually several ways of doing it. I guess people use them for something. I didn't look into that. I didn't try any of them. Some can only be set using the programming software. One last thing I'll mention is a feature. You can clone these radios if you have the clone cable, which is not included. So if somebody has just this model radio and you want to get all their very carefully done setup of channels and so on, it is possible to clone that onto your own radio. Now, some features that aren't there. This is not a crossband repeater. It does not have the American band plan built in. On the Japanese radios, if you tune to a frequency that is in the American band plan as being a repeater, it will automatically put the correct offset, and if there's no tone, you can just go right in. All you have to do is add the tone if there is a tone there. This does not do that, which is why it's more important to get all that stuff programmed in. I really do wish the programming cable had come with this. There are versions of this available that do have the programming cable for a small extra fee. Now, I would note something about the programming cable itself. Make sure it's advertised as working with Windows 10. What that really means is there are counterfeit cables out there, and the modern software won't recognize them. I've been having that trouble myself with the programming cable that came with another radio. I have on order a programming cable that I know will work with Windows 10, and when I get that, I'll make a separate video on how to program this. One thing that's very important to a lot of people I know is this FCC type approved? Well, I've looked all over this. There's nothing on the box except this one little FCC label right here. There's an FCC label. But here's the thing. It's nowhere on the radio. Nowhere on the radio or in the instruction manual does it have the FCC logo. I'm not a lawyer. I can't say what that means. I mean, the radio works and so on, but I can't speak to that. So what we're going to do now is go take a look at what's in the box. All right, let's take a look at what's in the box right here. Nice box, lots of advertising on the side and so on. So let's just open it up. I've already taken all the plastic and stuff out. First thing we encounter is the owner's manual. which is written in better English than the older Baofeng user's manual were, although that isn't saying much. It's in both English and German, of all things. All right, it's got in here little things about how to put on the parts, what the accessories are, and tells you a little bit about what the function keys do, and tells you how to read all the little things on the display. This is quite important because it's nice to know what these things mean. I was helping somebody troubleshoot, and we finally found the source of the problem when we discovered one of these little indicators here. This tells you what they all are. Now, on the descriptions of the various menu items, one of the problems is they don't list the default values. So I went through mine and recorded all the default values, so I know what it'll go back to if I exercise the reset. The one that says menu 40 is not correct. It's not in there. The reset menu is actually 40, and then 41 sets the receive tone, although you would use that like for a European style sort of thing to turn on the radio. And then we've got a little bit of a description of what some of the other things do. Okay, so let's take things out of the box. We'll start with the radio. This is the radio. It's got a nice, strong feel to it, and crisp, clear buttons. The buttons do light up. You can see that the name tag, Baofeng there, will glow different colors as you look at it. I guess you can do that if you're bored while talking. Now there is a battery in here. It's a little hard to get out. There we go. Now the battery here claims to be 7.4 volts, 2,000 milliamp hours, which is the same as 2 amp hours. It's model BL8, and it goes on just a little weird. You put it like this, and normally you just push it on, but it's much easier to push if you push in the little prongs there, then it goes on very nicely. If you want to get it off, you've got to reverse that, push in the prongs and push it back down, and it comes off. There we go. Okay, now the antenna is a little rubber duck. If you look on the inside of the rubber duck, which you can't see here, it tells you the frequency range. Now this is the male is on this end, the female is on this end, and that does create a potential hazard in that little pin right down there in the bottom. If that gets bent, you might as well throw the radio away, because you won't be able to get an antenna in there, and then try and straighten it, it'll snap off. So it's got the female here. The TYT I reviewed last had the opposite. It had the female here and the male here, but now when you screw this in, please screw it in so that it is just barely finger tight. Don't crank it down, all right, because you want it to last for a while. So there's your radio. Now, in here is a headset. Okay, it has 2 push-to-talk buttons. We'll discover the significance of those a little bit later. And here is the strap. I'll show you how that goes on. It's a little bit fun to thread. There's a little hook right there. Okay, it's a little hard to see. There you go. And let me push this in there. This may take a try or two. Going to help it through. You only ever have to do this once. Pull that up. Okay, now you've got a big loop right here. So we're going to take this end, put it through the loop, bring it out here, and voila. This is nice because you can put this around your hand like this, and then still operate the radio in your hand. And then if you drop it, it's got this hooked here so it won't go very far. Okay, now we have in here the charger. Now I want to alert you to something on this side of the charger. 10 volt input, not 12, not 13.8, 10. It's very important that it be 10. And there is a little spot there to plug this in. Here's a little charger that came with it, and it's got a 10 volt output, and that plugs in here. The instructor's manual warns you that you ought to leave this on the charger for about 5 hours the first time you take it out of the box. Okay, and this will glow red and green when nothing's in it. It glows red while charging, and it glows green when it's fully charged. Okay, and you don't need to leave it in when it's fully charged. Okay, so that's that. The last is the little belt clip. To put that on, you need to unscrew these two screws, put the belt clip in there, and then screw those down tight. Now I tried to do that. The only problem is I couldn't get that screw loose right there, so couldn't put that on. I don't use it anyway. Now, when we look at this thing on the bottom, note that these contacts here, which contact the battery charger, are hot. There's voltage across these, so if you get like metal jewelry or something across there, it can create a little bit of a problem. Now this is a lithium-ion battery. Normally on the battery charger there's a contact to match contacts, but note there's only two contacts in there. They're not taking advantage of that center contact to do extra careful charging control. It's a reservation that I have about this. You need to treat lithium-ion batteries very carefully. So there it is. We have emptied the box. Now, let's set the box aside and take a tour of the radio. All right. Let me get my notes over here so I give you a good tour. All right. You turn it on with this up here.
Frequency mode.
And it announces the mode that it's in this case frequency mode. There's two modes for the Chinese radio. Frequency, which is called VFO on the Japanese radios, and channel, which is called memory on the Japanese radios. These radios are clearly designed to perform in channel mode. So you want to get your stuff loaded up into channels. Okay, this turns it on and off. Now, the push to talk, there are two pushes to talk. You'll note that there are two frequencies there, okay? If I press the top button, I'm transmitting on the top frequency. If I press the bottom, I'm transmitting on the bottom. And you can see the little arrow right there change as I go back and forth, okay? This is very important. If you give this radio to someone who thinks it's just a single push to talk, they won't know what they're transmitting on unless you tell them that there's a top and a bottom. Now the F button turns it to FM radio.
Where treatment options include targeted therapies.
Now, you can directly enter frequencies for FM, or you can also create channels, put these into channels for the FM. Okay, now if a signal were to come in, okay, now if I come in, if a signal comes in, it goes right to it. And then, if you wait a little while, it'll go back to the FM. Or if you are listening to FM and you hit transmit, it will immediately take you out of the FM. And the way to get out of FM is just to push that button again, the F button. The M button over here turns the flashlight on. I think it's a fabulous idea. Turns it, I have no idea what you do with the blinking light. And then turns it off. Now if you hold it in, it becomes the monitor. Now, this is important. If you've got this thing set up so the squelch will only open if it sends you a certain tone or something like that, and you push the monitor button, you can skip all that. You skip all that stuff there. So I was troubleshooting with a guy via email. He had it set up to where it had to receive a tone in order to open up, and he couldn't figure out why it wouldn't open up we got that fixed. Okay. So let's see. You've got two channels here, dual watch. So if a signal comes in on either one of these frequencies, okay, that will cause the squelch to open and you'll hear it. Now, if stations come in on both, it'll only hear the one that it heard first, okay? But it is dual watch. You can listen for what's on both of those. Now, to switch between channel mode and frequency mode is kind of weird. Turn the radio off, hold the menu button down, turn the radio on, keep holding the menu button, and it goes into channel mode. Let's do it again.
Frequency mode.
Okay, that's how you get back and forth between the two modes. Kind of weird. You can't just punch a button or something to do that. Now, let's just show you how to input in frequency mode a simplex frequency. All right, let's do this. Let's make sure.
Menu. Channel mode.
Okay.
Frequency mode.
Now, the way you can tell the difference is whether there's channel numbers over here. If there aren't, you're in frequency mode. So to enter a frequency, you have to enter all 6 digits. 1, 4, 6, 5, 2, 0. Or you can do it 4, 4, 0, 200.
0.
Okay, you see, you just put the frequency in directly to do that. Now, the thing it does, I'm just going to use the AB. Exit is an escape key for commanding an A, B. That's A, that's B. Okay, that's A, that's B. See that button right there? Switches between them. Now, do you see the little arrow right there? It switches between them. Okay, so if I wanted to change the frequency in this one, I would punch it in here for the bottom one, and then I'd have to change to the top and punch in a frequency for that. Okay, so I'm going to go down to this frequency here. It doesn't matter. Pushing in here transmits on the top frequency. Pushing here transmits on the second frequency. So it does have the capability that while you're transmitting, you can send out DTMF codes. This used to be really useful for auto patch. Auto patches are getting pretty rare anymore. It also has a keyboard lock. This button right here, if you hold it down for a while, it's locked. Okay, that means that if you do anything except transmit, you can't make any changes with the buttons, but it still will transmit on the upper, transmit on the lower, and here on either one. Okay, and then just hold it down.
Unlock.
It's unlocked. Now, if you just touch it momentarily, it switches between low, high, medium, low, high, medium power, which you can see right up in there. Okay, and I don't recommend high power. It's too close to your brain. Okay, now we're going to set up the repeater for a repeater frequency, and I'm going to show you how this is done. And to do that, I'm going to need the menus. It's actually a little easier to do it on this thing. Although it has a provision for an offset and stuff like that, that affects the VFO mode. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got this frequency. It's 146790 output, a minus offset. And we note that the 2 meter offset is in the United States 600 kilohertz. On 70 centimeters, it's 5 megahertz. If you set those in the VFO mode, they will be in effect for everything you do in the VFO mode. So you don't really want to set those up there if you can. Okay, so what we're going to do, we'll take the upper one here, and I'm going to put this repeater into it, and we're going to put it into a menu. Okay, so first 1, 4, 6, 7, 9, 0. Okay, that's what we want. Now we're going to go ahead and put this into a memory. Okay, and that's menu 27. Menu 27. Enter menu
Memory
again.
channel.
Okay, now if it's got a CH, that means that that memory is already in use. So I'm going to go up to 23. There's no CH, so that memory is not in use. So now I'm going to hit this.
Receive memory.
Okay, I've got the receive in memory. Okay,
Memory channel.
all right. Now let's go back here. 14679 negative offset. So the transmit frequency would be 1, 4,
4,
6,
6,
1,
1,
9,
9,
0.
0.
Okay, that's the transmit frequency that we want. Let's go back to that menu item. Menu 27. Menu again.
Memory channel.
Now watch this.
Transmitting memory.
It put that into the transmitting memory.
Memory channel.
Okay, so now if I go over to the other mode, turn it off, come up in channel mode,
Channel mode.
you can go directly, well, that's the repeater right there. You can go directly to a channel, let's say we want to go to 21. 3 digits, 0, 2, 1. It gives you channel 21, okay? Now, we put that in 22, so I'll just use this to go up to channel. All right, now, watch this. When I transmit, it's going to switch over to the repeater input frequency, okay? And they probably don't appreciate me chunking the repeater. KE0 OG testing. Okay, pretty scratchy. I'm 20 miles away from the repeater. All right, now we talked about the lock, we talked about the repeater, getting everything in there. By the way, there is an alarm function which is like really weird. You know, that's really, really annoying, and I don't know what you would do with it. Doesn't put anything out. Okay, and the other thing I want to mention here is if you want to put a name on that channel, you're going to have to do that from the programming software. So let's just wrap up with a couple little things. It will scan. Okay, there are options for what it will do if it scans. Scan is oh, here it is down here. Okay, it's a scan. Hold this down.
Scanning begin.
Okay, it's now scanning through the channels. Okay, it can do that. Just hit it again to stop.
Scanning stop.
Now, if it stops on a channel with a carrier, it'll just, you can either have it stop for a moment and then move on, stop as long as the transmitter is on, or you can have it just stop and stay on that particular one. And you set those via menus. Okay, I'm recording on 5.2 with the GT-5TP. Walking outside, see how far we get away from this thing, because I don't want the thing to be in the near field. It just kind of messes everything up. So, by the outpost, this is KE0OG doing some testing on a bunch of rigs. I've got a receiver in the house, an SDR with a 1 megahertz bandwidth, looking at the signal, and I just want to see about the spectral purity of these compared to Japanese radio. Okay, we're out to the road here. This is KE0OG. I'm doing some testing on 5.2. I doubt there's anybody listening around here anyway. So this is the Baofeng GT-5TP, and we're transmitting to see what the spectrum looks like. All right, let's see what we've got. This is an older Kenwood. TH22AT, and I don't think I'm transmitting a full 5 watts on this, but we're looking at the relative spectral purity. Okay, so that's what we've got here with this particular radio. Now I'm on the TYT. See how we're doing on this, the TYT. I think the bottom line of the spectral purity testing is that the best is the Japanese radio, the next is the TYT, and the next is the GT-5TP. However, notice that signal that's just showing up there right now is not one I'm transmitting, but notice it splatters too to other areas. So the bottom line here is that they work fine. There are a couple things that I am concerned about with the radio. One is this push-to-talk button. You have to push the top of it or the bottom of it. And the top one transmits on the top frequency, the bottom transmits on the lower. If you just pick this up and push the push-to-talk button, you may not get anything. You may get the top, you may get the bottom. So taking this radio and handing it to somebody who is used to a normal push-to-talk type handheld, and they use this, they could run into trouble. I would actually recommend painting a black stripe across here and telling people that's the upper, that's the bottom push-to-talk button, and you can't do them both at the same time. Now, given the higher power of the radio, 8 watts, you want to keep this thing a ways away from your head. I'm assuming you value your head and don't want it cooked. So get the speaker mic for it and use the speaker mic, or have the thing somewhere out of the way where it's, from a radio frequency point of view, not going to cause a problem. And that's really underemphasized with HTs, but these emit RF just like anything else. The duty cycle spec on this thing seems a bit low at 3 minutes transmit plus 3 minutes receive plus 54 minutes of rest before repeating that. I don't know that this, if that's really true about this radio, that it can transmit for long periods of time. Now, standby, if you've got it like on your belt clip or something and nothing is being received, you can do that all the time. But recognize it does take more power out of the battery to do the receiving and transmitting. And I really wish this came with a programming cable, because there are features you can only get at via programming, and it is infinitely easier to put in repeater frequencies into the channels than it is to try to put them in directly, as I showed earlier. Okay, now I'll do another video when I get the cable for this, and we'll set up some programming for it. It should be the same cable as for the PowerWorks, and that's where my cable is coming from. Overall impressions, it's solidly built. I mean, I have large hands. It fits in my hand very well. It doesn't disappear in there. The buttons are large enough that I can play with them. I guess the question is this a good first radio? And the answer is, if you can really learn to use the top and bottom on the push-to-talk, you'll be in good shape. But I would point out, if you're a novice to ham radio, it'd be nice to have your friends have one of these too, so you can help me. I know with another radio, I was in an extensive email correspondence with somebody who was having trouble with their radio, and it is frankly because the Chinese radios are a little bit harder to use. So find an Elmer. That means mentor. Would I recommend it for the price? It's great. I mean, you get a lot for the money, but either get the programming cable, or if you've got a group of friends, have someone get the programming cable so you can use it amongst others. It's one of those accessories that mostly just sits there, but boy, when you need it, it's real nice to have. Now, I'm going to end with the poll. This is the poll that I talked about earlier. Are these reviews helpful? There should be appearing on your screen right about now a poll or something that you can touch and have break into a poll. I just want to know if the way I'm doing the reviews is helpful to you. Does it help you decide whether or not to buy one? Does it help you, if you decide to buy one, with setting it up and getting it to work to your satisfaction? So the poll is, are these reviews helpful? Put yes, not really, And no, it just confuses me more. So also, after I quit talking here in a second, there's some end cards. You can select one to subscribe. You can visit my tip jar, or you can go to the Ask Dave playlist. So keep watching. This is Dave, KE0OG 73.